Hello YouTube, you're watching Drone Dude, and today we're going to be reviewing a new product from a new company. This is the Seraphi drone by FUAV. So let's just go ahead and start out by discussing what or who FUAV is. FUAV is a Chinese-based company. They are brand new and they are trying to compete this model with the DJI Phantom 1. They can be looked up on FUAV.com, and I'll have a link in the description of the video. And as well, if you are interested in sales of the FUAV, contact Anna at FUAV.com. That is also in the description. So let's begin with the review. So let's go ahead and discuss design elements of this FUAV. Well, as you can see, it looks very similar to something else you probably recognize on the market today, and that is the DJI Phantom, and this is the DJI Phantom 3. However, this more closely resembles the DJI Phantom 1 as it does not have a gimbal on the bottom pre-installed, and it's kind of a base platform, base camera platform, if you will. So obviously this is a quadcopter. It has 4 rotors on the top, and these provide propulsion upwards, downwards, sideways, etc. And then you have a standard remote controller. Now, one thing you'll notice that is different from the DJI remote controller, if you are familiar with the newer DJI products, is that this does not have a centered stick. A lot of drones today have a stick that is actually centered in the middle, and then you are able to go up, go down, and it spring loads back to the middle, much like the right stick on this remote controller spring loads back to the middle when you let go of it. However, the left stick does not do that, and we'll get into a little bit how the GPS hold works on this model in a little bit. So in terms of weight, this is actually a very lightweight drone with no camera on it. The battery weighs a good bit, but it still is a lot lighter than, definitely lighter than the Phantom 3 and Phantom 2 Vision Plus. Obviously it doesn't have a camera system, and FUAV is currently working on a gimbal that will be available for this model. In terms of build quality, well, it feels, the plastic does feel a bit cheap. However, the motors are actually really nice. They are nice brushless motors, plenty of power, and then it's got orientation lighting, so you have the red lights in the front and the green lights in the back. And then you also have a indication light in the very back of the drone to help you keep orientation and also tell you various things about the drone. This is also resembling the Phantom 1. There's a couple of design elements I actually like and prefer over the Phantom with this model is it has a much broader landing gear. If we hold up the Phantom, you can see they're a lot more narrow, and that means it's going to be easier to land on an uneven surface or even on a rough surface. You're not going to have as much of an issue. So in terms of motor and prop design, these are actually pretty low RPM motors. They're the first motors I've actually been able to see the props spinning when I shoot in slow motion. Usually when I shoot in slow motion with the Inspire or Phantom 3, the props are running at higher RPM, so these props do appear to be operating at a lower RPM. And then these are also the self-tightening props. They just simply come right off with the spin and then also go back on in the same way. Now, one interesting thing about these props is that there's an arrow on the prop itself and then there's an arrow on the drone. And you correspond these 2 arrows, and it also will let you know which prop to put on which motor, which of course is very important. Now, the props are also have little color labels on top. One of the props is silver and the other prop has a black top to it. And the motor doesn't actually have a corresponding color. However, it does have a corresponding indentation on the top of the motor. The silver props will go on the non-indented motors, and you will be able to see a little indentation on the top of the motor when you look closely. And then the black will all go on the indented motors. So that is a feature right there that helps you determine which prop goes on where. So then we also have the battery hatch for the battery. Now, notoriously with Phantoms and other products by DJI and other companies, battery hatches are relatively hard to open, and for good reason. You don't want the battery falling out while you're flying. And this is no exception. It does take a little bit of force to get the opening hatch downward, and you just push it down like that, and you can access your battery. Now when you do receive the Seraphi drone, the battery will come in the drone, and as you can see, this is not a smart battery. This is a standard 5200 milliamp 11.1 volt LiPo battery. It's got a Dean's connector on it, very easy to attach to the corresponding Dean's connector in the drone. And then it's also got a balance port, and we'll get to this when you're charging. It's fairly simple, but it is there, and it is something you will need to look out for. There's also a QR code on the LiPo battery. So when you're flying and you notice a red flashing, or red and green flashing light, or a green flashing light on the back of the Seraphi, that means you have low battery, and you should probably land soon. I've given it about 3 minutes after I've gotten that light, but to play it safe, you might want to land pretty soon after you see these light flashing. So that would be a green flashing light would mean you are low battery with GPS, and red and green supposedly means that you're low battery without GPS. So this is the charger for the Seraphi. It has the FUAV logo on it, or name. It has several options. Now it actually outlines how you should set this up in the manual. However, I'm going to just go ahead and tell you. On the right side of the charger, there's a button that has 1A, 2A, and 3A. You're going to want this on 3A for 3 amps. And then you also have the choice between LiPo and Li-Fi. You're going to want it on LiPo, or lithium battery, and that is to the left, or it is on the left side, and it is all the way to the left. So all the way to the right on the right side, and all the way to the left on the left side, and you've got it. As you can see, this is actually a standard smart charger. You could use this for multiple batteries that aren't necessarily the Seraphi battery, which is nice. This is the Dean's connector it comes with, and you just put that in, and it plugs right into the battery, to the charger. And then you also have your various cell ports on the side. You have 2 cell, 3 cell, and 4 cell batteries. This is a 3-cell battery, so you're going to also plug the white balance port into the 3-cell section on the battery, on the charger, and that will begin charging. You will see a red light when it is charging, and it will turn green when it is done charging. So let's get on to the remote controller. Now this is a standard RC remote controller. It is a mode 2 is the one that was included, so your throttle stick is on the left and your pitch control is on the right. So you have the throttle stick, and that will allow you to go upward or downward, and then you can also yaw, which is rotate, so actually take the drone and rotate like this. That is also on the left stick, pushing left or right. And then you have pitch control on the right stick, so forward will move the drone forward, backwards will move the drone backwards, sideways, and etc. So tilting the drone to move forwards, backwards, and so on. Now, one thing I really like about this remote is it is very, very simple. Not very many buttons. It's ready to go. So we have one switch over here that is actually a dial, and that is for the gimbal control. And actually has a good feeling to it. It's got good tension on it. It's not too loose. So I feel like it would allow for accurate control of the gimbal. Hopefully I'll have the chance to test that out at some point and get a film out of the gimbal. And then we have the other switch on the left side of the remote, and that says ADDI and GPS. And what ADDI is attitude mode. So in attitude mode, when you push the stick over, the drone is actually going to push over, and then it's going to level out when you let go of the stick, and it's going to continue to drift in the direction that you pushed it over. So if you want GPS, which GPS allows you to have position hold, you slip that switch into the bottom position, and then you have GPS position hold, so you push it over, push the stick over, it's going to go in the direction that you push it, and then when you let go of the controller, it's going to stop, and it's going to hover there where you let go. Now, one thing you'll notice is that the stick on the right, or on the left side, sorry, is not centered. So this stick is free to move up and down. So actually the way this works is that if you move the stick to the center position right here, this is GPS position hold. So if you climb up, so you're going to want to push the stick up when you take off, and then once you get to a comfortable altitude, you're going to take the stick and just put it right in the middle there. And in about this middle area is its position hold. So once you put the stick in the middle, you can let go, and in GPS mode, it'll just hover there. And so if you want to climb, you simply push the stick upward, and if you want to descend, you simply push the stick downward. So the overall feeling of the remote, it does feel a bit cheap. I do like that it has trim tabs on it. A lot of drones, such as the DJI, do not have trim tabs for trimming the drone while in flight, and not that you necessarily need to, especially in GPS mode, but it is nice they include those, especially for flying in attitude mode if you plan to do that. And then overall feeling, it feels cheaper. It's a cheaper plastic, and yeah, but it's also, it serves its functionality. It feels very solid. And then it's also got room for 4 AA batteries in the back, so those will be required to use the remote controller. So finally, we have a little loophole right here in the middle of the remote controller. This will be good for attaching a harness or something that you could use to allow for greater control of the remote, or if you just want to let go of the remote, you could have a harness strapped around there, so you could do that. And then you also, of course, have the power button. That is very self-explanatory. When I got my drone, the power button was on, but obviously there were no batteries in it, so it wasn't making any difference. But anyway, the down position is off and the up position is on, and you'll see a green light in the right top corner and a red light in the left top corner. So this is a small remote controller. However, you do get a fair amount of range with this controller. This is a 2.4 gigahertz standard remote controller, and you get around 500 meters of range with this setup you have right here. So that's not too bad for something that's ready to go, ready to box. It's not DJI range, however, it is adequate for line of sight flying. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into what you're going to do when you take this out on your first flight. Well, it doesn't say you have to do this, but in the quick start guide, it actually shows you that it's recommended that you calibrate level, and basically this would sort of be equivalent to a IMU calibration on DJI. I'm not entirely sure of the setup in this drone, however it calibrates level. So what we're going to do to calibrate level is very easy, and I actually like this over DJI products. It's not a big complex process that takes a while. This is actually very simple. You simply take the left and the right stick on the remote controller and push them all the way to the left side of the controller for a couple seconds. You'll watch the lights on the back of the Seraphi drone flash very rapidly, and then you'll wait a minute for the lights to go back to normal pattern, and then you have calibrated level, and obviously you'll want to do this on a level surface. So once you have the battery plugged in, you'll notice you have several lights. The red lights are in the front and the green lights are in the back for orientation. And we're going to go ahead and turn this around, and you'll see the light. This means that the drone is starting up. One thing I really like about this drone is the GPS. The GPS is very good in this drone. It acquires GPS quite quickly. And as you can see, we're indoors right now, and we actually have GPS signals. So very good GPS from this drone. Green flashing means you have GPS acquired, and you are ready to fly it with GPS. And that is obviously initiated when you are in GPS mode. Okay, so when we take off, what we're going to do is we're going to take both sticks on the remote controller, and we're going to push them inward and to the bottom at the same time, and I'm going to go ahead and show you this. Okay, so now the motors are primed, and then about as fast as you can after this, you're not going to notice really any visual difference on the drone. However, the motors will be primed, and then it'll give you about 2 or 3 seconds to throttle up the motors. So you're going to push the throttle up, and you're going to take off. Now, one thing I noticed when I first took off with this drone is the takeoff seemed a little uncalibrated or something, and you'll actually see in this video, it did kind of a go to the left a little bit and go to the right. It was kind of shaky. However, I'll show you something that actually fixed this issue in a little bit. So once you're off the ground, it performs just like I stated earlier. The right stick is for controlling pitch, so which way you pitch over and the direction that you go, and then the right stick is for controlling throttle and yaw. And so the best thing to do actually when you first get this drone, and when you first fly any new drone, is to keep the back of the drone to you, and this will prevent you from losing orientation. Now, that means keeping the light that is on the back and the green lights on the back of the motors facing me, and using the yaw on the remote to keep the back of the drone facing me while I fly around. This will prevent me from losing orientation while flying the drone for the first time. So my recommendation, once you get it off the ground, is find a reasonable place to fly, and then get it about maybe a 5 or 6 foot hover off of the ground, make sure everything's stable and working well, and obviously make sure you have GPS before you do that. And if you're more experienced at flying, you might want to switch it into attitude mode and you can have a little bit more fun. So the way the rates work on this drone is when you're in GPS mode, it's less movement available for flying. So you're going to be moving at slower speeds in GPS mode, and when you let go of the sticks, you're going to hold your position. Even in a good bit of breeze, it does a pretty good job. Now when you're in attitude mode, you're actually going to be allowed more controlled movement, and the controlled movement allows you to go at higher speeds, faster, and it actually is more fun to fly that way. Now this drone is advertised as a potential GoPro camera platform. However,